wherever or whenever. It's Big Victories.
You could bet it all on me. Anything that I do it B-I-G. Shot caller, so they call on me. If my dogs don't eat, then they fall on me. It's the ice on the wrist for me. I'm living life like it's meant to be. Lived everyday shit, everything big. Big crib, big bands, nigga, it's a big victory.
Welcome to another edition of the Big Victories podcast. Jeremy St. Louis alongside Big Vic. Happy to have with us today David Bowser, who is the athletic director at St. Augustine's University, head football coach as well. Coach, I mean, this is how I refer to people when they're coach. I just say coach. So I'm not going to call you by your name. I'm just going to say coach. Coach,
just call me Coach.
Happy to have you with us. How is everything going over there at St. Augustine?
Oh, it's going great. I appreciate you guys taking time to invite me on. We're getting ready for a big golf tournament tomorrow. That's a fundraiser for the athletic department. We got a big Juneteenth weekend with the local soccer teams in the Raleigh area. Our president is going to be one of the hosts for the start of the match, and I'll be hosting on Saturday. So it's a lot of positive things going on right now at St. Augustine's University across the board. But athletics is really at an exciting time because our student athletes are doing an outstanding job. And now we just want to promote and let folks know that in Raleigh, North Carolina, there's a Division II institution that's preparing to do big things.
That's amazing, Coach. But once again, we finally got somebody else here who has more job than me. Coach got on.
Right, Coach wears a lot of hats.
Coach wears a lot of hats. Coach, how do you manage to actually be an athletic director and be a head football coach? Because me being an ex-athlete, I know how hard is it the head coach actually has to work. And you just being in charge more than one program as an athletic director and everything that comes along with it. How do you manage that?
Well, the biggest thing that happens is one, time management and preparation is important. So we got to plan things out in advance. But I'm blessed because from the athletic administrative side, I got some great help with Mr. Leon Carrington, Mr. Anthony Jeffries, our sports information director, and then also Dorothy Neal, who is our senior women administrator. So the three of them allow me to have some flexibility. So what happens is, administrative side, we divide things up. People take leads on certain things. We meet very often. So that's important with me wearing both hats, that sometimes some administrators may only have to meet with their staff maybe once, maybe twice a week, but we meet at least 4 times a week. And then from the football side of it, I have an associate head coach and an assistant head coach. So a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities I place in either Graham Hobbs, who's our associate head coach, or Stephen Tate, who's the assistant head coach. And we meet and we discuss things and we iron everything out. So I think preparation is the key. Now, do I sometimes feel like I got like 6 or 7 voices in my head? Yeah, I won't lie. But the thing about it is just having the great support that I have. And then the ultimate blessing is to have a president like Dr. Christine Johnson McPhail, who really understands and has a great passion for athletics and what it brings to an institution. She's very supportive. So having her is a big plus. And so just great people help make this manageable. Now, I'll never lie and say it's easy, but it's manageable because I have some great people around.
Coach, one of the things that's, just when you look over your bio, one of the things that kind of stands out is that, yeah, you wear a lot of hats, but you also wear a lot of important things that you're doing at the university in regards to student athletes. One of the things I wanted to hit on right away was the importance that you've placed on mental health and mental wellness. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what that means to you and kind of what you're trying to accomplish by bringing awareness to this for the student athlete?
Well, what I've come to find out over the last 10 to 15 years being in coaching now is that the talent level has not dropped off by no means. Kids are probably more talented than we were, but the kids are not as comfortable with themselves as we may have been. And so a lot of it is because of social media now, which is a great thing, not a bad thing. But a lot of these kids tend to live in the moment. And because they live in the moment, you know how it was with us, we set goals and we wanted to attain, I want to be able to bench this in 2 months, or I want to be able to run this fast in 4 months. These kids today, even if they have a moment where it's not successful, it weighs on them a lot heavier. Like all of us used to be like, man, I can't wait till the next opportunity. I'm going to make up for it the next time. This won't happen again. But a lot of these kids get stuck in that moment of failure. And so what our staff has agreed upon is that mental health and mental well-being of our kids are very important, because for them to excel and be not only the athlete, but the person and the student that we need them to be, they need to be comfortable in who they are. And so the mental well-being is very important, because we want these kids to know you have value. You are important. You're more than an athlete. So when we look at this, the mental health, the programs that we did, it's very important that these kids be comfortable with who they are and where they're trying to get to. And we also want them to know one moment of failure does not define you. And the greatest quote I ever heard Michael Jordan say, and I think it was great, Michael Jordan said, the only way you fail is when you don't try.
True.
He said, that's the only way you can fail. Because he said, if you try and it doesn't work, you'll learn from it.
Right.
You'll be able, and you won't let it happen again. But if you never try, you can't do anything but have failed, because you don't know what went wrong. You don't know if it would have succeeded, and you don't know what the outcome would have been. So we just want our kids to be able to be comfortable, and it starts with their mental health. So yes, sir, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people love to talk about the physical well-being of kids and even the academic side of it. But sometimes kids just got things going on the inside that we can't imagine, man. And they just want somebody to listen or know that somebody else has been in that dark place too, and that you can make it out of that dark place. So thank y'all so much for opening up with that, because it's very important to us that our kids get that mental well-being.
So, Coach, I'm curious as to how did you come to that? So, like, was there something in your life that happened that brought you to that? Or, you know, like, what is it that kind of forced you, not forced is not the right word, but put you in that direction? Because a lot of coaches, let's be honest, they don't look at that. They're looking at the physical part. You go to those Power 5 programs, they're not interested in mental wellness. They're interested in what can the things you talked about, your physical, your 40, how high can you jump, how hard can you tackle? So what was it that set you in that direction to prioritize the mental health and wellness of your athletes?
I think that what it comes down to is that from personal experience, I know what it feels like. When we're honest, I think all people would acknowledge this. You know that there have been times where you haven't had to ask yourself on the inside, am I good enough to do this? Am I adequate for what's being asked of me? Because the unknown can be challenging. And what I found out was sometimes when you can just sit down and talk to somebody and allow yourself to be open and honest about what your feelings are, what you're thinking, it's like a weight lifted off of you. So I just have to say from my own experience, what touched me more than anything was when I got comfortable enough to be able to express myself in a manageable way. Because I laugh when I think back, and you guys can relate to this, when we were our age and we played sports. You know, it's like you get something happen to you, they look at you. How many fingers do you see? 2? You're okay, get back out there.
Or throw some dirt on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so but what we know with these kids today is that they get worried when they're hurt or they're injured. And they'll say things like, well, I'm letting the team down. No, if you can't perform at the level you need to perform at, you don't need to be out there. I mean, and don't think you're hurting the team. Just get healthy and get back. It's our job. I like to tell our guys, it's our job to keep this thing together until you get healthy. It's not a burden on you. The job is, everybody's got something they put in on this. So when you look at it today, we really have to focus in on, if the kids are prepared mentally now and they feel good about it, they're going to give you excellent work, man. I look at how you think about a great example, and I know he sometimes to most people the extreme, but you look at the level that LeBron James operates at his age. Look at the level that Tom Brady operates at their age. But what it is, those guys are so comfortable where they are, and they understand what they have to do. And that's where you want your kids to be. If you want to perform at a high level, your mental has to be straight. You got to be honest with yourself. And we as coaches have a great responsibility to these kids, especially at our level. because a lot of our kids may not go professional, but they're going to someday be responsible for a family. They're going to someday have to have a career. And then someday they just got to be able to manage themselves over the next 60 some odd years that they're going to be on this earth. And the mental part is most important. So from us and my staff, I mean, I love the fact that everybody bought into the idea of us getting this mental health part on our student athletes. And it's also across the campus. It has become contagious that we're very conscious from student affairs, academic affairs, that this institution takes great pride in the students' well-being and a mental state right now, especially being in COVID, where these kids, when they were in high school, some of them spent their last 2 years of high school online, never in a building, not seeing their friends. That stuff weighs heavy. And conversations on a text, oh my goodness. The words can get, you know how that goes.
Fights.
What'd you say?
Fights.
I didn't say it.
Yeah. And and the funny thing is that if there is a percentage that does go pro, I mean, that's what, 3.5 years, 4-year career. Then you've still got, 50, 60 years of life that you got to deal with. And we see all the time, unfortunately, athletes that have been at that level that just can't come to grips with not being at that level anymore, and they struggle with it because there's certainly those skills are not. There's certainly the mental skills. So when you look at it, you touched on COVID and kind of the mental aspect that's had on athletes. As you look at things as they stand right now in this very divided country, with all of the things that are going on right now, violence on a daily basis, we've got such division amongst our politics and amongst our human beings. As you look towards the coming football season, what are the challenges that you think you're going to have to face based on the climate that we're sitting in right now? Yeah, we're post-COVID, which is great, but it almost seems like things just haven't really gotten that much better for young people in this country.
And the hard part is, and I'm already loving you guys' show because y'all are at a whole nother level, and it's important that we take things to this level, because until we can get the inside right, you're not going to get what you want out of kids on the outside, man. And so you hitting on this. I look at our kids and the things that they're dealing with right now. They're watching adults, and we're supposed to be the example for them.
Yeah. And
they're like, well, you guys can't get along, but you're talking to us about getting along. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what they always say, sometimes we get caught up in, we're telling them, do as I say, not do as I do. Yeah, so we got to change that. So the point that you guys just hit on with that question is, what my biggest concern is, how fast do you get everybody moving in the same direction? That's my biggest concern, because the best teams have continuity.
That's right.
I'm sitting here watching this NBA Finals, and everybody thinks Golden State's a little bit on the edge, but I keep seeing continuity. I see where they're comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Like, they're comfortable. Everybody understands Draymond's going to be Draymond.
Yeah.
Draymond couldn't do what he does at every team. Every pro team could not. Guys could not deal with him. But Clay and Steph and even the head coach, there's a way that they can manage Draymond. And even in the most clutch situations, Draymond knows how to fall back in the line with what needs to be done for them to win.
Definitely.
He may push the edge, but he's not going to go too far.
When they bench him last week.
You know what was funny is when I was working this week, it was the anniversary when they played their game, when they won that game the other night.
Yes.
Game 4?
5?
Game 4 or 5?
Game 4.
Game 4. When they won game 4.
Actually 5, sorry.
Was it 5? Yeah, they're up 3-2.
Yeah,
so when they won game 5, it was the anniversary. That day was the anniversary of Steve Kerr's title-winning shot with the Bulls. Way back when he said afterwards, I bailed out Michael Jordan again. Right? Yeah. So it was the anniversary of that, and that the players knew that. That Kerr, that would have been brought to their attention, and you just got that sense that from a mental aspect, they went out there and were like, we know our coach is clutch. We know he can do it. Let's go out there and do it for him. And obviously Steph, 43 points. The rest of the team knew that they had to step up in order to help, because Steph's not going to be able to do it all. I mean, although, you know what? Maybe he could.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was an interesting point that you bring that up, because obviously playing for your coach is one thing. When you know that your coach cares, when you know that your coach is invested in you, then it makes it. I'm not going to say it makes it easier to make mistakes, but it makes mistakes
more enjoyable. To be
manageable.
honest with you,
Yeah, it does, and that's one of the things we had a football staff meeting this morning, and one of the things that I told the guys was I said we got 3 points. One we're going to focus on teaching. We're going to get back to teaching, and in order to teach, the next thing is we got to get back to communication, and communication runs in all areas: player to player, coaches to players, and coaches to coaches.
I'm glad you went there, Coach, because you know what I did? I broke down some of your film. I'm about to ask you about your program. You know what I mean? So I did some film section a couple of days ago when I know you was coming on.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's like we're sitting there, and it's like these are the things that when you take a young team, and that's what we had, man, because I brought in 75 freshmen last year.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. How you managed actually to...
But here's the thing, right? You got to look at what I saw was us being a small Division II school, trying to build a program to where you want it. You can bring in several pieces of transfers, but if you bring in so many guys that have been at different places, they already come in preconditioned a certain way.
Yes.
But if you bring in the whole foundation pretty much being kids who have never played college football, then whatever we do is what they know college football to be. And I promise you, this spring, we were light years ahead of where we were in the fall because they had finally gotten comfortable with being a college football player. Before, they didn't know what to expect. But now, this past spring, the enthusiasm, the way that they were accountable to each other, the communication got better. And the other thing, too, is that we talked about, and I think you guys would really agree with this, motivation is great, but it's always up and down.
Yeah.
So I told them what we got to do is we got to nurture good habits this year. And good habits mean the technique is sound, that we're disciplined in our keys and just doing the right things, and we'll be a lot better football team. You can take a talented guy, and if he runs up on another talented guy, the more sound guy is always.
Technique will win every day.
It'll win every day.
My question to you, Coach, I want you to go ahead now, describe your let's put your AD hat on, and we're gonna get back to the coaching part. Tell us more about your university.
You're looking at one institution in a great city. It's in the capital of North Carolina, in Raleigh. We're blessed that where we are, there are 2 HBCUs that are like 5 miles apart from each other. Our sister institution, Shaw University. So you have all this natural love, but yet rivalry right there. We're on a campus with beautiful, I'm looking right out the window now. We got beautiful buildings. We have an enrollment of about 1,200 students. Another thing that's a little bit different about our institution is we have more male students than we do female students. And in today's society, you don't hear that a lot on college campuses. A lot of them tend to be more female than male. But at our school, we have more males. Our institution is focused on, and our president emphasizes this, and we support it, to become a STEM institution. Most historically Black colleges are known to be liberal art institutions. She wants to broaden our horizons. She wants us to become more of a factor, not only within the Raleigh area, the state of North Carolina, but also throughout this country. And eventually, she says the STEM is going to help us move globally. So what I love about St. Augustine's right now is this is a school that's on the uprise. This is a school that if you are a young person who wants to come and leave your mark and your legacy, not just fall in line and possibly, carry the torch, and then you may be remembered, you may not. But if you want to come in from the ground up and just be a part of a reimagining of what historically Black colleges are going to bring now, St. Augustine's University to me is ideal.
Coach.
But the most beautiful thing about this is when you sit down and understand, we don't want you to think, well, we're only looking for the traditional historically Black college student. We want any student, any color, race, or creed that wants to come to a place and appreciate the rich history that this institution has and add to it. So we got things that we're talking about. We want to add non-traditional sports, and we call them non-traditional because they may not be typically available at historically Black colleges, but we want to add those because we want to diverse the institution. We want to diverse the way people look at things, because as you guys talk about, why is it so hard for sometimes politics, people can't get along, sometimes the races can't get along, is because we don't know or fully understand each other. We have preconceived notions that we've heard, but then you're amazed that once you get together and you just sit down and talk to people. So I think the engagement is what's important, and that's what's important at this institution. So I'm excited that we have the opportunity to be with you guys to talk about where this institution is headed. So you picked the right HBCU to ask about this.
You know something, man? I can just hear you talking right now doing a halftime speech down 3 points. I think you literally have those kids run to the damn wall, man. You know what I mean?
We'll be right back with the Big Victories podcast.
This podcast was recorded in Miami Podcast Studios. Call us now for booking 305-968-5366 for all of your video podcasting needs. 305-968-5366.
The Big Victories podcast, hosted by Big Vic, with co-hosts Mev the Renegade and Jeremy St. Louis.
There's some passion that coming through your voice, maybe because you believe. I think when somebody believes in the journey, it's easier. I can sense from your voice you understand like the younger kids say, you understand the mission.
Yes,
you know what I mean? You understand the mission.
And the mission is simple. It's about helping these young people succeed and reach their goals. That's the number one thing. And to protect the integrity of the institution that you're involved with. At some point, you'll be doing, maybe in 10 years, there'll be another person sitting right here that'll be talking about St. Augustine's University. So what I have to do is I have to feel honored that I get the opportunity in this window to represent such a great institution. So you're absolutely right. The passion is there, because every day my feet hit the floor, I just thank the Lord that I get to come to 1315 Oakwood Avenue. And so you're right. When you take that excitement, you can't help but hope that it becomes contagious.
So let me take it back then. What made Coach? Tell me your background. What, brothers, sisters, mom, tell me.
That's the easiest thing. Most kids grew up and they always talked about they wanted to go to the NFL, they wanted to go to the NBA. I loved sports, played sports throughout. But if you ever asked me, it was always watching the Tom Landrys, and I was a 76ers fan. So let me tell you now, Tom Landry was the most cool guy on this. I'm like, how can he coach football with a hat on and it never get messed up or fall off his head? Because I watched that. And then the 76ers, I love Dr. J, and I would watch the 76ers and Billy Cunningham, man, he couldn't beat those Lakers. And I was so excited in '83 when they finally beat the Lakers to win that World's Championship with Dr. J and Moses Malone. But the one thing about Billy Cunningham that I always respected was every time he came to the podium, even those years that he lost, he always showed class and dignity. And so coaching was just something that really enamored me. And it was like, I really would think about the ability to have a skill set to motivate and move other men to want to work at a higher level. Coaching is, because at the end of the day, like y'all were talking about with Steve Kerr, he hit a shot on the exact date, maybe 25, 30 years earlier, and his players knew that, and they wanted to make sure that it didn't come up any less. Or when Carolina basketball this past spring, everybody's talking about Hubert Davis can't this, Hubert Davis can't do that, and the next thing you know, they're in the Final Four.
That's right.
They're in the Final Four because they believed in what their coach was presenting to them. But people don't understand it's a process. Everybody wants microwave success now. And it's always funny how people who want microwave success do not understand the hard work that has to go into being successful. I was listening to you when we were talking earlier, Vic, and you were naming all those Miami Hurricanes. Those guys put in work, man.
Yeah.
Warren Sapp, technically, for most people, Warren Sapp's an undersized defensive lineman, but he's one of the best in
You know something so funny? People now these days are giving Aaron Donald so much credit. They don't understand. Warren Sapp was doing this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean, at 265.
It's just we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my point. When people talk about, and you brought up Warren Sapp's name, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, in the last 15-year college game before Aaron Donald came along, they would have been trying to make Warren Sapp a tight end.
Yep.
They wouldn't have put him in the interior. Nobody would have believed that guy, but Coach Dungy gave him the freedom to be inside, and that guy made plays.
Nobody could do it.
Yeah, so it's just something about being a coach and finding a way to motivate your guys to excel. I look at Mike Tomlin. Was it 15 years in the NFL? Never had a losing season.
Nope. Because I think he came in with a plan. Tomlin, if you don't understand, to me, I think some of the best coaches have been special team coaches.
Yes.
Because you know why? They get to work with every facet of the football team.
Everybody.
So they became better communicators. Look at Jim Harbaugh.
Yes.
You know, like people don't understand. Even Belichick. Belichick was on special team side. So
Yes.
I don't know, Coach. I'm a historian of football, so I'll be.
When you look at it, the ones that are most successful, and you just put the word every time, they're able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that plays for Coach Tomlin will tell you, and he probably got a little bit of that from Coach Dungy, and then he sprinkled it in on his own and what he believed. But Coach Tomlin, he lays it out there to them as grown men off rip. Hey, this is what I expect. This is what I don't expect. It's not a whole lot of those, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. It's more of, if you do this, this is what you can expect.
Yeah.
I heard a couple of weeks ago, it was Warren Sapp and somebody were talking about when they played for Coach Dungy, he talked about 5 things. And he said, as long as you don't do these things, you won't make the major news for the wrong reason. And I'm like, that's awesome. Because now you're making your guys think. And this goes back to what we talked about before. Accountability is important. And accountability is important because, one, we let kids know, hey, we're not perfect. We've made our mistakes, but we learn from them. But accountability, because I care about you, I don't want you to make the same mistakes. And that's what you should want to treat it as if your parent to a child. No parent wants their child to fail. No parent wants their child to get hurt. I laugh now. You remember when we learned how to ride bikes? Did y'all have a helmet on your head, knee pads, and elbow pads?
Nope. Hey, push me down the street.
In the house. Remember you came in the house with your elbow?
Yeah, my pants all greased up and caught in the chain. Pants get caught in the chain, and they're getting all. You had the wet mark up your back from riding through the puddles. Looked like you, yeah.
It's a whole different concept now.
So I see why they be here.
Coach, I used to drink water from the hose. Right? In the middle of the afternoon when it was
get the
boiling
bacteria,
hot.
the good bacteria.
I used to eat carrots from the ground, like, you know.
But you know something? That's why I don't try to compare like centuries or even anything, but I don't think these kids today will be able to survive when we was growing up. Because I remember my mom.
We wouldn't be able to, but hang on the other side of that, we wouldn't be able to survive the way they're growing up.
Because they have to go through so much. They can't go outside.
Think of the trouble that we would have gotten into. The things that
if there was social media, I don't think I would be sitting here, Coach.
No,
I wouldn't be sitting here next to you right now. I have a question for you. I have a question that I definitely would. I've been thinking about it all evening yesterday, pertaining to your program. When I watched the film I was watching on you, man, one thing I can say from last year, I saw effort. The kids wasn't the best. You know, I grew up in Power 5 football, so it's a little bit different. But I saw effort, man, and that was like, damn. Can you imagine if there's a lot of kids in Florida, in California, in Texas, where they might not be able to go to University of Texas, but could go to your school. But I think one of the things I would like to work with you on, because I do a lot of summer camp and satellite camp. Eventually, what I would like to do is if we can actually get you involved in some of these satellite camps where you get a chance to pick some of these talents. You know what I mean? Give the opportunity to actually get the people to understand your program, to buy into your program. Like, we have some satellite camp coming on the end of July, beginning of July. I think y'all gonna be in. I don't know if y'all gonna be for prepare for fall ball, or y'all gonna be ready for.
Yeah, we report right now. We're scheduled to report July 29th.
Okay, I think it's a camp like on the 7th, on either on the 12th, or if y'all can't make it. If it's not can't make it next year, I would love to get you guys into 3 to 4 camps. From the Miami Edison, the North Miami's, University of Miami camps, and Florida State camp, Florida camp, where these kids come in and they have a bunch of coaches from other schools. And I think you guys will do great, especially your personality with these kids will fit right in. Because you sound like a Dade County guy, man. You remind me of my. But you know what? I have to give my co-host. I have to give him his fly while he's here. For a guy who actually been in this business for as long as he's been and successful as he's been, Jeremy actually took the time to go through your profile to actually understand who you are, so he can ask you the questions that benefit for us, not only you but your program. So I always give the fly when I can. Let me tell you something. That's a pro. That's a freaking Hall of Famer next to me right here. And for him to be as humble as he is to me all the time, to my guests, Jimmy, I want to tell you thank you, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely.
It's my pleasure. Coach, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is this isn't the right way to phrase it, but I think you'll understand my meaning. The rise of the HBCU.
Yes,
and
sir.
certainly in terms of football and athletics. Deion Sanders obviously bringing a lot of attention to Jackson State because of the fact that they got the #1 recruit in college football last year, stole it from Power 5. I mean, an unbelievable accomplishment, but it increased the spotlight on the HBCU. Do you feel any added pressure that comes with that, or do you welcome that pressure and a chance to showcase what your student athletes, what your HBCU can bring?
I think that what's transpired is this. You have had historically great football in historically black college. There was a time when you had to go to HBCU. So the Gramblins, the Jacksons, they got the guys that went on and went to the Hall of Fame.
Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, and these guys,
That's where they went.
Yeah.
So then the Power 5 structure became what it is. And what the Power 5 structure is built on, and we know it, is built on recruitment. It's built on facilities. It's built on big stage games, large crowds.
TV, all that,
Right. So how do you get mad at Deion Sanders, who is big stage, television, large crowds, and all he's done is gone to Jackson State and began to recruit the kind of kids that at one time the only place they could go would have been a Jackson State. So I say the rise of the HBCU has really always been there because the Eddie Robinsons, the Bill Hayeses, the Gunthers, there's been gentlemen who have done high-level football but did not get the same recognition. That all we really see now is that Deion Sanders has been able to draw in the attention. And then you see the Damon Wilsons, who at Bowie State went to the 3rd round of the playoffs in our conference. Done an outstanding job, won 3 straight championships, and just taken the job at Morgan State. I think that Tennessee State at one time, and Eddie George is going to get them back there. Tennessee State, well respected. Coach Simmons down at FAMU, taking them to the NCAA playoffs. So you're absolutely right. The rise is there, but what happens is there's still a gap because the inadequacies of facilities and support and funding has been there for so long. Our conferences don't necessarily have the kind of TV contracts that you would like. Now, I know that when Jackson came on, they were able to get some ESPNU games and things this past fall. But if you really sit down and watch it, the quality of the football is there. And the things that becomes most important to me is not necessarily that every kid gets a chance to play on Sunday, but every kid that plays on Saturday feel like they had a great experience, because that's really what it's going to come down to. Because even the guys that play at Alabama, there's going to be some great ones that they won't make an NFL team, but at least they'll say they had a great college experience.
That's right.
And so I think the accountability factor is that we have to find a way that whether you go to Division III or you're at Division I, Power 5, that the kids leave there feeling like they had a great experience, that they were coached to a high level, they had a great college experience as a student and as an athlete, And those are the things that are going to be most important. So to me, HBCU football, it's been a blessing. And we all should accept the challenge, because I would hope that every coach in my conference that I compete against, that their ultimate goal is to win the national championship. Because I'm sure that's the goal of everybody in the SAC conference, the PSAC conference, out on the West Coast in Division II. Everybody's ultimate goal should be to win a national championship. So to me, the rise is awesome. The pressure that's being put out there is great, because it's only pressure when you're not prepared.
You're listening to the Big Victories Podcast.
This podcast was recorded in Miami Podcast Studios. Call us now for booking 305-968-5366 for all of your video podcasting needs. 305-968-5366.
The Big Victories Podcast, hosted by Big Vic, with co-hosts Mev the Renegade and Jeremy St. Louis.
Every morning that I wake
Coach,
up,
do you feel that it's maybe even a little bit, not less pressure, but maybe the pressure off a little bit? The fact that you're not a Power 5, that it's not in that same realm, and you're not having to deal with name, image, and likeness and all of that sort of business that is now coming into college football.
Well, I think that what happens, our kids, or what's going to wind up happening as well, is there's going to be a lot of kids, because of the NIL, that probably could be a great Division II or great sub-5 conference type player. They're going to go to the Power 5 school just to get the NIL deal. And they may not have the kind of career that they could have had. Kids are going to factor that in there now. And that's my one concern. You know, you possibly could come to a St. Augustine's, a Bowie State, a Shaw, or Winston, or Fayetteville State and be an outstanding player, but you might decide to go somewhere else to be a role player because of your family structure and dynamic, that you really want to be able to get that extra $25,000, $30,000 a year in your household, because everybody's not going to be $1 million NIL.
Oh, no, definitely.
The guy that's an NIL guy that's making that kind of money, they're meant to be that way.
Okay.
They're built, they're going to be there.
Okay, so then how do you convince a player that comes to you and says, Coach, look, I need this money. It's right now. I need it right now. I've got to go. How do you go about talking to him about and trying to convince him that money now is great, but money later is better?
Right. Well, and that's where in the recruiting process that you hit on, everything is, you got to be talking 15, 20, 30 years down the road. We should be encouraging the kids. So what our option becomes, and we've been doing this a lot in our department, we're trying to help set our kids up with internships. Okay. Now that's paid internships. Now you're getting hands-on job experience. So we're letting them know, hey, what you do is you come to college, you're doing 3-4 years on this internship. You got a chance to fall into a position with this company because you've grown with them. They've grown with you and helped you develop. We have to be creative. We gotta be able to convince those kids, as you're saying, that the long term is going to pay itself off. A lot of them struggle because they want to make things better for their families. And this is another thing that I tell my kids is, I said, it's not your responsibility to raise your parents. It's your parents' responsibility to raise you. And what I mean by that is, no, it's true though, because what happens is a lot of these kids are making decisions based on what they're trying to do to help their family. But what they don't understand sometimes is the part-time job at McDonald's, the job at Burger King and things like that, that's a temporal solution for something that your bachelor's degree, your master's degree can change. And then sometimes you can come to college, learn a skill set, and you may be able to move on into an IT position. Because we have to look at where the structure of our company is going right now. Our country is going to a structure of, you better be in the medical field, IT, or you're going to struggle. You've got to be in those areas. The days of, I graduated from high school, I get a job at the factory, I retire from that factory at 58, 60 years old, making $90,000 a year, my retirement, my benefits, those days, they're gone in our country. And I don't know, and I don't think they're coming back because still at the end of the day, the value of labor in other countries and cost on return, and they still bring the items back here and sell it. But there used to be a time where college was not the forced track on everybody. So now what you look at is, like you said, it's either going to be IT in some capacity or you're going to be in the medical field. And that's how you know those things aren't going away in our country. So I just try to encourage our kids to look long term. And we have a responsibility to put people, businesses, and opportunities in front of them, and that they get a chance to seize those opportunities. Because from a Division II level, we won't be able to go out and get our kid a $500,000 NIL deal. It's not going to happen.
You're not going to give him a Maybach? Coach, let's take off your AD hat and
hang on a second.
Okay,
I just wanted to say something real quick. I just want to say, Coach, I want to just admit something that, I mean, I came from a middle class upbringing from when my parents, when I was coming up, when I was playing football, when I was going to school, my parents were just always saying, you know, look out for you, build your future, build your future. What you're talking about is something that I have no concept of. And I want to, I want to be open about that. I want to be open and admit that. And I think that that's a really great point. And it's certainly something that is going to be, top of mind moving forward, because I was lucky enough where I grew up to come.
You were rich.
To come from that situation.
You was rich. Stop playing.
I was middle class. I was
his middle class is richness for us.
Certainly middle class in on the prairies of Canada. So it was, I was very fortunate in that regard. And so, I just want to say I appreciate you, verbalizing that and making that point. I think it's a very salient point and something I'm not soon going to forget. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jeremy's so nice. Oh, but Coach, let's talk about some football now.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the battles you having right now on the field? What are some of the battles?
Like getting into it.
Yeah. Let's
position battles.
Position battles. Who's playing? Like, put their name out there, Coach. Don't be like, put them out there.
Let me just say that the most pleasing battle that came out of this spring was at the quarterback position.
Always.
We got 3 young men. We got 3 young men that when we started, I was like, wow, this may be a one-horse race. And then we got through about the 6th or 7th day of spring practice, and I was like, Donovan Brewington and Chris Perkins are going neck and neck, man. And then all of a sudden, we had a scrimmage one Friday, and the left-handed kid who never said much, Kobe Clifton, he had a great scrimmage, and we go back in, I'm like, hey, man, we got a good problem. I mean, it is because, one of the classic quotes that Coach Phillips, who I worked for 13 years at Fayetteville State, used to say is, if you got one quarterback, you got none. That was his philosophy. He said, if you got one that you depended on, you got none. Because if he gets hurt, we got problems. So I watched all 3 of them develop. I'm excited that when we come to camp, Chris is going to be the incumbent because he started the last game, and he, in the spring game, stuck out the most. But, as far as I'm concerned, the reps the first week are going to be split evenly between Donovan and Chris, but Kobe's also going to get a lot of work. So that's the biggest battle. And then probably the next most exciting battle we're going to have is we're going to see at the tight end position. And I know that's an awkward position, but I'm going to tell you something about me. The last 15 years, everybody's been going spread, 4 wides, 5 wides.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Oh, no. Me? Yeah, man, go pull some. You want to see me? Go pull some Iowa State film because that's a lost art, man. Let's get 2 tight ends and a fullback back in this. Because
so you still run a fullback?
Yes, sir. You know why? Defenses struggle with run fits.
That's
because
right.
They're not used to that extra gap.
Yeah, you're right.
so
I play tailback, so I know what you're talking about.
You know what? I was when I played quarterback, I was in a 2 quarterback system. So the team that I played for, we had a 2 quarterback system. So we had QB1 and QB1.
Okay.
So the guy who I played behind. I was QB2. The guy who I played behind, because I'm going to give him full credit because he could spin it. And he was a great quarterback. He was a great quarterback. He only played high school. That was it. He didn't play college. He just wasn't smart enough in university and all that other stuff. But anyways, he could spin it. I was the runner. I was the runner. I was
was
the
the
guy
gypsy.
that third and short. Jeremy, get in third and short, run that sweep, put your head down and go straight ahead, or if we were trying to throw off the defense. So when you look at that was back then. I mean, we're talking late 80s. So my head coach had a hybrid system back then. I mean, we won championships in that system. You know what I mean? Because you catch defenses off guard. So when you look at your quarterback situation in particular, are you looking at three guys who bring you the same in terms of what you can do with them offensively? Or are you looking at three guys who can give you variety in terms of what you would choose to do to try to throw defenses off?
They're all three different. And I like that you brought that up is because that's something that we've even discussed is about packaging each guy. Let Chris do what he's most comfortable with. Donovan is probably the better runner of the three, and Kobe is a natural pocket quarterback. I mean, like, really, if you wanted to go with the old school play action fakes and set it up, Kobe can do that. Chris, he works well on the perimeter. When he's moving, it's hard to say this, but he may throw the ball better on the move than standing still. And the reason why he throws it so well on the move is because whoever's in front of him, if they run up, he knows how to have that perfect touch. And if you stay off, he's going to make you feel bad because he's going to break your ankles and embarrass you in front of your grandma. He's going to run with it and shake you.
You know what
You don't ever want grandma to go,
he needs some milk. Coach, I can relate to that because I was a better thrower on the run than I was dropping back. And the reason why that is because I didn't get to think. I had to throw it. Yeah. I had to do it from memory. So when I used to practice, my poor little brother, I used to send him out running routes all the time, running to pylons and stuff like that. Well, I would throw on the run, constantly throwing on the run. I very rarely dropped back and just sat there. I would usually throw on the run because that's muscle memory for me. So, but if you've got a lefty, Coach, I mean, you've got a whole. You can do a lot of damage to teams if you're putting a righty and then throwing in a lefty. They'll be like, "Oh my God, what the hell are we supposed to do now?"
And that's the luxury that Kobe brings to us is that everything he does moves in a different direction. And the other thing is the way the ball comes off the left hand is unbelievable.
It's a different way.
It's going to be the way it comes off is different, and we can tell that. And I think that's what maybe put him behind a little bit, where the receivers weren't used to the way the ball was coming off his hand.
Well, and that's an adjustment for your entire offense. If you go from one right-handed quarterback and then all of a sudden package a lefty, it changes everything in terms of how they have to do things. So it obviously makes things not just challenging for a defense that's going to face you, but for your offense to execute.
Yes. And that's why I feel like by the end of camp or spring practice, the guys were making the progress because they had gotten used to Kobe. But and he was kind of beating himself up, thinking that it was him. But you're absolutely right. You're left-handed. Your ball comes off different. The kids are expecting where your placement is. We're working a different side of the field now. You're moving the ball this way to move him out to the left where he's more comfortable. And then when I line, you got a left-handed quarterback. Now the tackle has got to protect his backside.
Yeah, the backside's different.
Our strong side.
Exactly. Backside's different now.
Look at Jeremy. Look at Jeremy.
No, and hey, I always knew what the blind side was. Believe me, okay? I always made sure that this guy back here was, I'm making sure of that.
Coach, what position you played when you were playing ball?
60 pounds ago, I was a defensive back.
What you 180 now?
Hey, I like you more and more. I talk
but listen,
obviously you're only seeing me from the shoulders up, so that's probably 180.
So, Coach, tell me about your defense then.
Okay, so we are an even front team. Love even front. Mm-hmm. The one thing we're going to do is we're going to play a lot of quarters, and the reason why we like to play a lot of quarters, especially in our league, our safeties have got to be able to help on the run because once again, those athletic quarterbacks are able to do some things out of the spread. There's some teams in our conference, their quarterback is like having an extra running back. And then the other thing people have started doing has been tough on you is when they spread you out, they get a 5-man box, they're going to isolate that back on that extra linebacker that's in there. Right. And they're going to let the quarterback run the ball. So your safeties have got to be able to instinctively cover but also be good on run support, because if not, you're giving up 6 or 7 yards. So our 4-man front, we play a lot of quarters because we want help on the run when people spread us out. But then the other thing I really would love to get to, but I think it's a dinosaur, so I got to let it go. I get in the meetings and I'm still begging for cover 2. And the young coach.
Oh yeah, they're not coming back. That's not coming back. They're going. That's not coming back. You need some special athletes for the cover 2.
Coach, they're not even
safety.
They're not even playing cover 2 in Madden anymore.
Yeah. You need a special free safety. He got to be a special individual to still run a quarter 2 these days in the system that's being run right now. Because this guy got to really be able to run.
Yes, and that's the hard part. You got to be able to get him over the hash, over the top.
Yeah, that's a lot of ground to cover.
And a good quarterback knows how to stick that thing right in that soft spot where he's over the top and the corner didn't sink enough.
Yeah.
Because he's checking that flat route. So but we sit in there every time I'm gonna argue. And I say, what about cover 2? And then they chuckle a little bit. They be like, man, coach, that ship don't sail, man. They say quarters.
So what's your schedule look like, Coach? Who are your rivalries? What are your rivalry team?
Hands down, Shaw University, like I said early on, because we're about 5 miles apart from each other. That's our big rival, and they have been a great program. Coach Adrian Jones has done a great job of building up that program.
They got a huge quarterback, man. I saw the tape last year.
Yes.
When they played you. That guy's huge.
He has done an outstanding job. I have the utmost respect for what he's done at Shaw. Fayetteville State, where I came from, but, like I tell our guys, man, you got to get that score closer, or you got to beat them at some point for it to be considered a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
But Fayetteville State's one that we keep a mark on. And then Winston-Salem State, as most people know, they have been the standard in Division II.
Yeah, they have.
For a while before Bowie took over as that benchmark. But we got some good Southern rivalries. So I would say our biggest competition is our sister down the street, Shaw, then Fayetteville State and Winston-Salem State.
Coach, you've had some, St. Augustine's has had some NFL players, 62, 67, most recent 2008, Alex Hall, drafted in the 7th round by the Cleveland Browns.
Mm.
When you look at your team now, I mean, how many kids you got on there you think could be playing on Sundays?
I think we have 3 right now, but they're freshmen getting ready to be sophomores that have Sunday talent about them. But I also think we have a good 3 or 4 young men who I've watched them systematically get better in the 2 years that I've been here, that they have the work ethic, that if everything were to hit right, if given an opportunity, that they could get to someone's camp. So I think we have some guys who really have that ability. Now, I'm not going to say their names, because if they watch this,
you don't want to put pressure on them.
Yeah, no more hard working.
I got to go get a pen to pop all that air out.
Yeah, no more hard work.
And let me just say this too, okay? It's not just Sundays, playing on Sundays. You can play on Friday and on Saturdays north of the border.
Canada.
That's true.
The Canadian Football League is certainly a league that a lot of U.S. players who don't necessarily get that shot in the NFL can certainly make a good career for themselves.
Yes, sir.
Up in the Canadian Football League. So
And
not
you got
just about Sunday. Well, you got the XFL, you got the USFL.
USFL.
There are a lot of. What do you think about that, Coach? The fact that we've seen the game, or we are watching the game, really grow. Do you think that it's more about the fact that there are so many players that aren't necessarily getting that chance with the NFL, that it's going to give them another outlet, or do you think it's purely just capitalizing on the popularity of football, which has become America's pastime?
No, I think it's a combination of some talent. And the NFL is such a exclusive league to get into, that basketball and baseball had figured this out a long time ago. The minor league system allows you to still know that there's great baseball players out there. Guys get to AAA. The NBA finally figured it out when they went with the D League and the G League for development, when kids now don't have to go overseas. So finally we've got it now. Because like you said, you have to go to Canada. But the only problem is there's only a certain number of Americans you can have per team.
Yeah.
So that was kind of limiting. Then they did the World League overseas. I thought that was going to be great to make football take off. But still, in Europe, soccer is still king.
Yeah. Football is king.
Hey, listen, this guy here, man. He's a football guy.
I worked in soccer for 20 years.
Yeah,
So
he worked in soccer. Yeah.
But that was the hard part. So now that we in the United States have captivated the understanding of, hey, let's give these guys options. And I promise you, NFL scouts, NFL presidents, they're watching XFL players. They're watching USFL players. So it's almost like it's a developmental league for them. And they know it is because we've seen some guys come out of arena football back in the day that wound up in the NFL.
Wherever or whenever, it's Big Victory.
This podcast was recorded in Miami Podcast Studios. Call us now for booking 305-968-5366 for all of your video podcasting needs. 305-968-5366.
We're back with the Big Victories podcast. Here's your host, Big Vic, for real, with co-hosts Mev the Renegade and Jeremy St. Louis.
Yeah, and you could see, I mean, that's definitely something you could actually see, that your upper level P5 players are going to go to the NFL. They're going to get drafted, but then you're going to have players that are maybe in the G5 or in Division 2, maybe even Division 3 that find their way onto maybe a USFL, maybe an XFL, maybe a CFL roster is the path to get back to the NFL.
So the thing is, Coach, I like to get back into, as far as the guests get to know them well, because how do we keep up with your football team, the university? Because me being in Miami, Florida, if I wanted to watch a game for one of you guys' game, how do I go by doing that? Or is it still being developed?
CIAA, our conference has a CIAA network, and every Saturday they're showing every one of our games. You go in, you log in.
Can you say that again so maybe they can catch it?
CIAA network. Okay. Our conference is the CIAA network, and they show all of our conference games on Saturdays and real time. So it's live. It'll be when we're playing. So if we kick off at 1 o'clock, you'll be able to watch our games. We've also gotten to the point. Do
they need any hosts? Do they need?
Yeah, do they need a host? Because you got the voice. You got the voice here.
Hey, let me sit down with Mr. Jeffries and see what we work out, because I would love to have that. The only thing I ask is, don't do the in between the quarters or the timeout. Basketball, that's hard for me, man, because I'm sitting there watching, and a coach isn't going to say what they really want to say, and they didn't say what they said in that huddle during the timeout. I promise you that. That's all I ask. Don't come to me. You don't want to hear that. You don't have the cameraman over the top in the time.
Coach.
I told everybody to come in like this. Like, no, we don't want it.
Coach, you guys are down 35-7. Just give me your thoughts on how the defense is playing. What's been the biggest issue for you guys at this point? Yeah.
What they asked the guy one time, Coach, you're down by 10. What do you got to do? He said, score more points.
Yeah.
Or 11. Yeah. I know, right? Some of those times, when as a journalist, I know sometimes when I ask questions, like I know what
Yes,
I know how I would answer if I was a coach. Like, Coach, you guys are down 35-7. I mean, what kind of adjustments do you have to make? Well, the kind that are going to allow us to score 40 points. How about those adjustments?
Yeah.
Like you obviously have to. Obviously the coaches, and full credit to them. I mean, they have to field some ridiculous questions and some questions that probably make them go, "Wait, what did you just ask me?" Like, this is an easy answer.
Could you imagine back Bobby Knight in his prime?
Oh my God.
Lefty Drizel.
Oh God.
Prime, and you're asking those two guys those kind of questions.
You know the guy.
You're not interviewing Bobby Knight in a timeout.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You know who handled it best though? The San Antonio coach, Spur coach.
Yes.
Oh my God. What do you?
Greg Popovich.
Yeah, Greg Popovich. He's like, they asked him one time, "Hey, you down 20 points?" He's like, "What do you think? What would you do if you was the coach?" He walked off.
Yeah.
No, Pop is his own thing, man. Pop is his own thing, and he's beloved because of that. I think that it's, obviously it's intimidating to go in front of him to ask those questions, but at the same time, Pop does respect the craft of what has to happen. He understands it. He gets it. There's gonna be moments, of course, where he's gonna gristle. And in games, that's going to happen. But I'm willing to bet that afterwards, he kind of says, look, I kind of took the piss with you there. I didn't mean anything by it. It's nothing for you. And he's very respectful.
He keeps things in perspective.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. He definitely keeps it in perspective.
So, Coach, we have 10 minutes left of the show, Coach. I want to get those 10 minutes in. Actually, 19 minutes. I want to fill those 19 minutes with stories about you. What would you tell your 15-year-old self? I say 16-year-old self right now.
Hey, probably the best thing I can tell a 15-year-old me is that you just got to trust the process. Because if you think about it, we think at 15, 16 years old that the whole world is wherever we are in that moment. And then everything that matters is this moment. And the biggest thing I really would tell myself is learn to process things. Take your time. It's going to work itself out. Think about how many times we probably thought the worst, and then by the time it resolves itself, it never was as bad as we thought. And so that's what I would tell myself. And because one thing I know that I lacked growing up was patience. I wanted everything like this. I felt like I work hard, I do this, I want this. And then eventually you wake up one day and say, you know what? You can still work hard, but just trust the process. Because I'm a little bit different than some of my colleagues or guys that I work with now. I spent 20 years as a college assistant. I spent 8 years as a high school coach. So I didn't get an opportunity to become a college head coach until I was 49. That's unheard of now. I got some guys, they're probably in their early 30s. And you look at other guys that may have been a little bit younger than me right now, but they may have already been a head coach for 10 years. So I just tell myself at that age, just trust the process, man. You know what your goals are. You know what you're locked into. And being a college football coach was my dream at that age. So patience was the key. There was a lot of times in Fayetteville, I just felt like, man, maybe it's not ever going to happen. And then all of a sudden I get that call and finally, you're the one. I've been the bridesmaid a lot of times, but never the bride. And so when it finally happened, I was excited, man. And that's another reason why the enthusiasm or the fact that I get excited is that it took a while, but I'm excited and humbled to be here. Man, you're trying to break me down.
Hey, you know what? I just saw a tear, so I'm about to attack. I'm about to attack that now. So let's, Coach. So
you made somebody cry?
Yeah, because I'm the least person ever.
What a podcast is this?
Yeah, that's good podcast. But you know what though? When you actually work so hard, so long for something to actually get it, so I understand those tears. Those tears is like sometimes you desire those tears. You ever want something so bad that when you finally get it, if it's that woman, if it's that woman, or it's that whatever it is, it's like, you know what, man, Coach, is now you're in a position where you're doing what you really love. So it's up to you to actually get that dream and become a national championship. Because you know what? We want to build at the Big Victory podcast, Big Victory brand, period. Build a relationship with your university.
Yes.
I often give away Jeremy talent, meaning giving away, not just saying he's not going to do it for, because I think he's so talented. There's so many things that you got going at the school right now for us broadcasting, communication. And sports is going towards social media. Jeremy, I think, has the perfect voice to tell you guys a story. I think the next thing is to actually, when y'all do your documentary, your highlight film, I dedicate the voice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You know what I mean? To actually narrate it for you, to narrate it. There's a lot of things, like I said, we could do together.
Coach,
I like the thought of collaborating. And another thing, too, is I'm excited when you talked to me the other day about the fact that opening up an area to us that had not been my footprint. I'm a North Carolina guy.
Yeah.
I've recruited Virginia. I recruited South Carolina. But there's so much talent to be tapped into the state of Florida that you had me thinking like, man, you know what? You gotta tap into that. You gotta look and see what's down there, because there's been a history of kids coming from Florida to North Carolina to different institutions and being successful. So I love the thought of being able to branch into areas that we may have never thought of.
Yeah, let's do some side. I do camps anyway. Let's do some satellite camps for you. Get you in some of these high schools. Get you in some of these colleges where other colleges into. You don't think it's not as much as you may think it is, especially if you know somebody that knows somebody who can make some phone calls. And Jeremy, I'm passing to you. I know you had an important question to ask.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, who are the mentors for you? You're acting as a mentor for a lot of student athletes. Who do you go to? Who is your mentor? Who are the people that you look to for support?
Well, the biggest thing, or my biggest blessing, is that Dick Sheridan, who was my head coach at NC State when I was in school, has always been a great balance. And Coach Sheridan, to me, was ahead of his time. The way that you see the Alabama's run now, the way that you see Deion Sanders even running Jackson State, they run it with a CEO approach. You know, you have an offensive coordinator, you got a defensive coordinator. The head coach is the face from the standpoint of the day-to-day. What do we got to do? Here's the expectations. Here's the goals. How do we get there? Coach Sheridan was doing that a long time ago. I mean, he basically was the CEO of our program, and I always loved that. It was like he knew every player, whether you was one of the top guys or you were one of the guys that was happy to be there and you're making it through. He knew you, understood you, would ask about your family because he knew that everybody was an important part of the program. He always engaged our families in the things that we did. Like when it was spring, we always did a big breakfast luncheon before the spring game, and your parents would be there and everybody's families, you got to know each other. He made sure that however the end of season banquets went, you know, everybody was there. You were acknowledged. You know, that's like the CEO at the end of a great quarter, man. He wants everybody to celebrate in this thing, not just the ones in the suit and ties, but everybody that puts in on it. And so with that, he was probably the biggest influence of how I see and want the program to go. But then another influence was my position coach and defensive coordinator in college, Buddy Green. And from Coach Green, what I picked up from him was Coach Green, not only was he a great football coach, but you're talking about a guy that could recruit and could relate to people. And, you know, I always watch that. And I just said to myself, you know, Coach knows how to make people feel valued and important.
Wow.
And that's big because that's what people want. Everybody, like when you were talking, hey, man, let's look at each other. Let's be engaged. He would know and do things just like I said, when you opened up, you guys were talking to me about mental health and things like that, because that's something that touches me and it's been important. Y'all had me hooked in, man. I was like, oh, this conversation is great, man. This isn't even gonna seem like whatever time.
It's not a regular podcast, man. We about winning.
I appreciate that. I mean, but a lot of people right off rip, Coach, you went 1-7 last year. It's like you're beating me up, and I'm like, you make you comfortable. You know, and I love that. Y'all have got a great tandem. You work well together. So Coach Green had that ability to make you feel comfortable and feel like you were a part of it. So the two biggest influences on me is Coach Sheridan from that CEO, the organization part of how you want a program run, and then Coach Green with the fact that you just got to be able to meet people where they are. And if you can meet people where they are, like you talked about, for us to have been a team that struggled like we did last year, it's a compliment to me to hear you say that our kids played hard. Because that was the one thing I always asked them. I said, just play hard and let's see what happens. And we went out there the last game. We were 0-6. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 0-7. And we're playing the third best team in our conference who was 6-3 at the time. And those kids played like they had never played. And we beat a very good football team. And when we went in afterwards, I told them, I said, that is what you've been looking for all year. Where you played hard on special teams, you played hard on offense, you played hard on defense. I said, that right there was a captivating moment that you should never forget. I said, and that's it. So you made me feel good when I heard you say those kids played hard, because that's all you can ask them. Play hard, man, play smart, and let's see where the chips fall.
One of the things that my high school coach used to tell us is talent doesn't win football games, heart does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Heart and effort is what wins football games. Talent gets you to a certain spot, but you play a team that's not as talented, and we were beaten by teams that had more heart, that were more into it on that day. Any team can win on any given day. So I think that's a great lesson, Coach, that the fact that, you know what, just give it your all and let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Let the chips fall where they may. Let the chips fall where they may.
But you know something, Coach, too, the reason I kind of actually started off with that comment about effort, you got a lot of people who will critique you, your team, but never watch your game. A lot of things come from social media or somebody else's mouth. For me, if I'm going to have a conversation with you about football, I want to see the brand of football you play. So I'm going to take my time and pull your team up and watch quarter by quarter, position by position. And I know you was going to end up talking about the left-hand quarterback. Let me tell you why, because I did my little research. I just wanted to get out. The thing is, I think we all have responsibility to come on this show and tell the truth about something.
Yes.
I can't say your team was. You notice we never mentioned the record because I just talked about the effort. If I tell you efforts, that means I know y'all didn't do what y'all was supposed to do this year, but I see y'all tried.
That's it.
It's not for me to beat you up.
And the other thing was when you realized it was 75 freshmen out there, you almost fell out the chair.
Yeah, I was like, I'm saying.
Yeah.
They didn't play like freshmen. That's what I'm saying to you. They ran to the ball. They might got to the ball late, but they ran to the ball.
That's it.
They ran to the ball.
And that's why the development, the teaching, the communication on our end, now they should play a step faster. And the more that they get confident, you'll be talking about the coach, when they were getting to that ball, man, it was hats all around the ball. And that's what I want them to see. And another thing that I'll say that makes me excited about the way I describe things when I see St. Augustine's is I tell people when they come to visit, families, kids, I said, don't look at what you see right now. I said, have a vision. Let's see 4 or 5 years from now where you want to see St. Augustine's. Because if you look at it right now, where you are, you might get flustered, you might get it. But if you got an eye on the prize, if you focus on the end game, the end goal, you're going to be excited. We want to get things better. We want to win ball games. We want to win championships. We eventually want to win a national championship. Those are the things that everybody should start out with. I promise you that if you focus on that and then just get it out the way, and then you begin to work on the habits that need to be done, you begin to build the process, you do the little things that need to be done, the success will come. But if all you do is should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, the answer is yes, do it. Do it. And if you stumble along the way, regroup, learn from it. I tell the kids, all I want you to do, it's okay to rest, but never quit.
You a hell of a recruiter, aren't you?
Hey, you don't.
I've won a few battles here and there.
No,
I've had some success with recruit. Yes, sir.
It's what we said on this podcast, right? You don't lose in life; you win and you learn.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
Because I'm the definition of that.
There's no losing. There's no losing. Either you win or you learn. That's it. Put in the effort.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. And I'll say this as we close this down. You guys got a great product, and people are going to be blessed at where y'all are headed. I know this, you said it's only your 12th podcast. Mm-hmm. Man, y'all make me a promise that when y'all get to the 100 mark or something like that, let me come back for a few minutes. And then when you get to a 500
Wait a minute. We got to wait till 100?
We're coming to one of your games. I'm trying to see how we can plan that. How we can go to your meeting room and after a big win, we get you on there. You know what I mean? Because Jeremy going to have a job with y'all sooner or later, one way or the other.
You're giving me too many jobs, man. I already got one.
Hey, I love it, man. This has just been a blast, man. Because you don't know what to expect because it's all of our first time. But when we talked yesterday, I felt really comfortable, and we swapped the texts, and I was like, okay, boom. And then today, when we were getting ready to come on, I said, you know what? I said, this is different, but you got to give it a try and see how it goes. And when I get off, I'm telling you, this has been one of the ones where, and Mr. Jeffries, my SID, is
bring him on. I want to see Jeffrey. I've been talking to him. Jeffrey, get on here, man.
There's Mr. Jeffries.
Nice to meet you, Jeffrey.
Nice to meet both of y'all.
Nice to meet you.
Great interview.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It was very, very interesting. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this with Mr. Jeffries. What I love about him is, even though we are, as most people say, quote unquote, a Division II school, most of the time when he can, if his schedule permits, he's no different than anywhere else in this country. As an SID, the communications person with the athletic department, he'll be right there with us to make sure that we're okay with the interviews and everything. And you appreciate that because it's a comfort level because if there's something that he may not feel good about, from the very first time I did an interview with him with the newspaper when I got hired, he stopped the interview and he said, Coach, I just want to let you know. I said, yes, sir. It's St. Augustine's, not St. Augustine. And once he did that, I was good because he knew they were going to eat me alive.
Yeah.
He just hired a guy that can't even enunciate the
I think
school,
I said St. Augustine off
Yeah.
the top. Yeah. St. Augustine's. Okay.
Look, they didn't just sign you to a contract a couple of
Fair. Absolutely.
He said, but he also taught me that if somebody says the school name wrong, he said, just make sure when you're doing the interview, just say Augustine's.
So they can pick up on it.
Yeah.
They'll pick up on it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
You're fine. You're fine.
But
Like I said, he trains me well.
You know something funny though, Coach? The more and more you do this as a head coach, the less and less you're going to want to do of it. Let me tell you why.
Talk to me.
The questions become so redundant.
Yes.
To a point where these people trying to lead you into answers that they want you to give. It's no longer about your thoughts. And he's an expert at it because he does it with all the major athletes. And you have some reporter who will sit and talk to you. I used to be an athlete. They shove the mic in your face and they give you a leading question. And there's no way you cannot give them the answer they're asking for.
That's it.
So there's an interesting part of that though, is that so there's a guy who used to work at ESPN, and he grew up not far from where I grew up, and he ended up at ESPN doing seminars for the reporters and anchors on how to ask questions. He would do seminars once a month, and it was free. They'd have it on the campus at ESPN. You go, and he would talk to you about the questions that are being asked. So if you watch any ESPN interview, whether it's sideline, whether it's on a desk, whether it's in a pregame show, those questions are always going to be questions that are going to force the subject to answer. They're going to be questions that are going to get an answer out of you because that is what they are taught. John Sawatsky was the guy's name, and I studied I never worked at ESPN. It was always a dream, but I never got there. But you
did work some other big places. Stop trying to.
But I studied what Sawatsky was teaching, and so I know for me, when I go to ask a question of a subject, I like it drives me mental sometimes because I want to ask a question that's going to allow that person to open up and to give insight into kind of what they do, who they are, where they're going, where they've been. And so I think that that's lost on a lot of reporters, certainly nowadays. When I see a reporter, I mean, I've been in this business 26 years. When I see a reporter put a microphone in a coach's face and say, Coach, talk to me about this. That is not a question. No. That is a lead. That is a lead. Take the talk to me about out of it and just ask the question, right? Talk to me about what it was like being down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. No, what was it like being down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter? It's a simple adjustment. But Coach, I think that that's something that's a bigger type of thing. The questions that are going to be posed to you are obviously going to be, much more related to your performance on the field, your performance in the room, those kind of things.
Exactly. But I just, like I said, when this is like over, I just want you guys to sit back and know that from my perspective and having done a few podcasts already, your ability in a short period of time, this turned around, your research was outstanding. And the fact that you led on the human side of it first made everything else more comfortable. Because what I'm sitting in my mind thinking now, because as I'm finishing up, I'm replaying some of the things I talked about. You made me so comfortable that when we started talking about the team type stuff, it was easy for me to start saying, hey, well, this is what's inside my mind with what kind of team we want to be. And I'm like, from the beginning, if you'd have opened up with that, I'm just giving you the cliche answer.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I hope that we can be healthy coming out of camp. Everybody wants that. That's the motive. That's good, obvious. Well, who's gonna get hurt? So.
I do.
But you guys made me, feel like, hey man, this is a golden opportunity. So I really am like, man, I know when Mr. Jeffries and I get off and discuss the process of this one, this is one of the best ones I've been a part of, man.
Well, Coach,
this is awesome. I'm humble, and I'm like, wow, because it's almost like you guys are like longtime pros. I'm like, how I get on here, man? Y'all supposed to be talking to like the Sabins and people of the world, but I really feel honored.
He has been. He has been talking to the Sabins of the world, and I'm just learning from his coattail.
No. Coach. I mean, I'm a Canadian, so I always refer to hockey references, and that I was told a long time ago that you're only as good as your wingers, which means that you're only as good as the people around you. You're only good as the team around you, and this podcast is only as good as the people that we have on it. So it's not just about us; it's about you being willing to open up, to come on with us and talk about the things that are important to you, that are important to your program, not just on the field but off of it, and just reading your profile and learning about some of the hats that you have to wear in this particular climate that we're in right now. The things that you're focusing on at your school in terms of your student athletes are vitally important. And I hope that there are other schools that are either keying in on it or are starting to look towards it, because that mental health aspect of young people, what young people are going through, is so vitally important. So I want to take my hat off to you, and I want to applaud you for coming on and talking to us about that, and for prioritizing that within your program, within your school. I think that is just outstanding, and it's been our pleasure to have you come on to the Big Victories podcast and talk about that with us.
Thank you so much. It was a blessing. I really want y'all to know that this has been great. And I know it's how many times can I keep saying it, but it just, when you talk about in life, and we all are maturing and getting older, it's fulfilling when you do something and you know that, hey, that was good, and yes. This right here for me has been a great hour and a half. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This right here has been like, I've done some interviews and I get done, I'll be like, man, I could have been sitting at the desk typing or something. But this one, I'm like, wow, please send me a copy.
Oh, no, you definitely will have it by next week. Well, by next week, Tuesday, you'll have a copy of it. Great. We normally, we advertise it everywhere. I'm going to definitely get Jeffrey some if you want to market it. Yeah. And as well, please invite us to one of your games. And I do want to get a couple of speakers for you guys to actually doing pre-game shows. And I want to build this relationship with this university, because I also went to a university such as yours, and I understand the needs of it. And Jeremy is the person who, everything that I do, everything he does, I try to be part of it. So we definitely would like to do some great things with you guys.
I love it, man. And help tell our story, because we got great kids here, not just the athletes, but great kids here. And St. Augustine's University deserves the support. And these kids deserve the opportunity to have a great college experience. And I think that what you guys are going to do is open up the university to some doors down towards that Florida, Georgia, Alabama line. And we just keep this thing moving up, man, because that's the key, is finding a way for these kids to have an opportunity to get an education and live their dream.
And as you said, Coach, open to all. So
open to all. Yes, sir.
Perfect spot. Open to all. Perfect spot for us to end. David Bowser, the AD at St. Augustine's University.
Yes.
Joining us here on the podcast. Coach, again, thank you so much for being with us, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much, fellas. Continued blessings to you and the program and your families.
Thank you, Coach. That'll do it for us. That'll do it for us. We'll see you next time on the Big Victories podcast.
Big body, bimmer. Y'all them love me one fin me like then a big bulldog. 4-4 air trigger. And the boy this will get him head top, lift up in the push start. Big body, bimmer. Y'all them love me one fin me like then a big bulldog. 4-4 air trigger. And the boy this will get him head top, lift up in